Emeri Johnson, welcome to the podcast. It's good to have you on today. How are you doing?
I'm doing so good. I'm so stoked to be here, Sam. Thank you
Yeah.
for letting me come on.
I'm excited for the conversation today. Could you introduce yourself to the audience and tell us about yourself?
Yes, so my name is Emeri Johnson, like you said. I am currently a UVU student. I am potentially transferring to Texas Tech next year just because of family situations. But so I'm a financial coach at the Money Success Center, and I'm a big advocate for next gen financial advisors. I'm a part of the Finster Foundation board. I am interning at Carson Wealth Management right now. I'm really obsessed with aligning money, time, and values for my clients and the people I'm surrounded by.
Yeah, I like that. And Emery, what are we going to be talking about today? Why should the audience stay and listen to the episode?
So, we're going to be diving into a discussion about money, time, and value alignment. There's a massive gap in the decade of like 20s to 30s of people going through a quarter life crisis and just not feeling like they're not confident in their decisions and how they're going to the results they're going to get long term. So I'm very interested in that subject specifically among my peers, and we're just going to talk about how, give you some reflecting questions. Me and Sam are going to walk through an alignment and values exercise together just to help give perspective on maybe some of the things that you might be feeling as well in the audience, and just some tips to deal with this stressful decade of decisions.
Cool. Yeah, this is going to be a good conversation. So what's the first thing to go over then if we want alignment with our money, time, and values?
Well, I think it all starts with really reflecting on where you're at and what you want in life. And I'm specifically keeping in mind high school students when I'm talking about this. So correct me if, we want to frame this in a more broad sense. But it really starts with that self-discovery of planning out your future. And I think that naturally comes when you hit about 18 as you're graduating, thinking, everyone's going to ask you, what are your post-high school plans? So, and I'm sure you've gotten so much of that, Sam, recently being in that phase. But I think it's a very stress-conducing time. And so something I wanna walk through with Sam today is an exercise that I can even drop the PDF link in the description for you guys to even do on your own, just to kind of understand yourself and your core values, and then use that when decisions are coming up. Use that when if you choose to map out your life like some people do, and really come to understand what alignment looks like for you in your life.
Yeah, I think that will be helpful for especially this age, right before that decade of decisions, because if you can get clarity on that, then that's going to if you have a direction, I would say, then that's going to make that decade a lot more enjoyable than if you just try to figure it out, I would imagine.
Yeah, and before we dive into that, just to get some perspective on 18-year-olds and kind of the people you're surrounded by, Sam, I'd love to know how many of your classmates know what they wanna do. Or I guess your peers, your friends around you.
Yeah.
How many of them know
Yeah.
what they want?
Many of them so I'm homeschooled, but I am in it's a group with other homeschoolers, and so I still know a lot of
Okay,
people my age,
gotcha, okay.
and yeah, most of them are very clear that, they wanna go and serve a mission. And then, some of them wanna do college, and a lot of them actually are clear on what they wanna do. I don't know if that's the case for, the general population of high schoolers, but I am blessed to have a peer group that is very future focused and, we're all looking to the future.
Absolutely. And I actually do think it's pretty normal for us to have plans at this phase just because if you're not thinking about what you're gonna do next, I think it's really hard to move forward. But something that will be interesting, and maybe this will, like, reflect in your answers, Sam, is asking yourself, like, the deeper questions of why you're doing something, or, like, understanding yourself better because, you are, like you've said, you're choosing to go on a mission, and then it's really there's, like, a feeling I feel like that comes with understanding why you're choosing to go on a mission, and maybe, like, uncovering the value beneath it, and then asking yourself, when you get home even, "Okay, so I
Yeah.
remember feeling so excited about this and how aligned that decision was to go on a mission. And then, okay, so how do I make this like reflect in what career I'm choosing, what I'm choosing to major in, who I'm choosing to date, like those things, it all like wires and or links in together. And I think that that's where a lot of magic and alignment comes is through those past experiences, through the confidence you have in your plans in the future. So it's a very exciting time of life, I think, to just be discovering about ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm interested to see, how this actually will play out in my life. So do you think it's important, yeah, how does someone come to know why they wanna do the things that they're doing? Because you were mentioning that people, they have plans, but do most people not know why they're doing the actions and they're going on the path that they are?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Sam. I think that there from what I see, I guess, is there's these two like crossroads you come across where one person may be following kind of status quo, doing what they think is right, and then maybe they're pursuing a path like let's say, your dad or something was like, he's a professor. So maybe like your whole life you're watching your dad's life through the lens of being a professor and there's certain aspects you like, so you're like, "Okay, I wanna do this." And maybe you're, like, in your master's or I mean, I know not everyone has to be, I don't know, there's different paths for being a professor, but let's just say that's the situation. And then you're halfway through your master's, and maybe you start realizing you hate school, and maybe it's in your bachelor's you realize that. And then I guess it kinda you reach this moment. I think everyone's a little bit different on their journey when this moment may come, but I think that's where the quarter life crisis hits, is it's like, so I never actually asked the deeper question of why I wanted to do that, and I think that's more of a self-reflection, but then you're at this point, you've already done so much work to get to this place to become this professor, and you realize that the belief was inherited from, your childhood, from seeing this incredible example. I mean, luckily, we live in a world where it's okay to change paths frequently, like, I know so many people that most people actually, I would say that, at least that I know in my circles, don't even do their like the career that they chose in high school or even what they studied in college. So that's on like that's a good thing for us is that you don't have to stick to what you were once said you were going to do. But I think it also takes a toll on you to realize, okay, I just did all this work and now I'm realizing that I don't actually think that this is what's giving me my spark for life. And, luckily, there's mentors, there's friends, there's a lot of support on the way, but I think that that can be a hard realization, and sometimes it crushes people, and sometimes it gives you the momentum to the next thing. Obviously, everyone's different, but, I think it's important to recognize and really reflect and get to know yourself for I mean, I guess as you're painting out, the next 5 years for you. But then on the other hand, I think the why that's powerful is and I'll actually just, like, give this through, an example I had with a client recently that I think is powerful, is so she came into my office. We've been meeting for about 6 months now, and she loves spending her money. It gives her so much fulfillment to just, like, see her money in action all the time, and, she loves vacationing like a lot of us. So she comes into my office and she's like, "Hey, there's this Hawaii trip I want to go to next month. Everything's paid for except the plane ticket. Can we make this work?" And she's a full-time college student. She works part-time. So it's a hard financial situation when that's 2 months out, and we're like, "Let's scratch up $1,000 to go to Hawaii." So we started, like, picking apart all these things we could do to make this work. And then I, like, paused, though, and I realized I I wanted to change my approach of how we were dealing with this situation, and it was going back to that why. Like, why did she wanna go to Hawaii?
Yeah.
So I ended up we started talking about the things that she thought she would get out of Hawaii that she wasn't getting out of her life now. And it was actually really interesting because she didn't even know the agenda of the Hawaii trip. She was just like had this wishful thinking that doing this trip was going to like give her grounding, give her new like refresh and excitement for life. And like she had these very specific things she was looking for. And it actually came down to her realizing that she could get that same fulfillment in a podcast. So that's where we started like shifting our conversations. How can we start doing this podcast to help you find more, grounding and excitement and like feeling refreshed about life? And I think that that's a lot of the self-reflection in it too is maybe not even the most major life decisions, but it's a lot of the compounding small ones you make. Like for her, starting this podcast over choosing to go to Hawaii, and not even because of the action itself, but because of the why, because of the grounding and the refinement she wanted in herself. So that was a really long way to answer your question. And I hope maybe I even didn't answer it. But I think one discovers their why by first trial and error, but
Yeah.
also, giving yourself time to reflect and, saying yes to opportunities and just evaluating how the small things, align with you. How do they make you feel so that you don't end up just mindlessly doing check boxes, going through doing what you're supposed to do and reaching a point where you're halfway through a process and then you realize you don't want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, so someone who is, 18 and they've seen or well, I'm not 18 yet, but they've seen people, go down these paths mindlessly or, they hear about people switching, majors or career path, and it creates a fear maybe that, "Hey, why would I even start doing this thing if I'm going to just change my mind about it later?" So what do you do then if, you don't even know if you're gonna be sticking to that? Should you start anything, or do you just self-reflect until you figure it out?
Okay, yeah. I'm glad you asked that because being stuck in analysis paralysis is the worst thing you could do. So there's definitely a balance. And when I say reflect, I guess I mean more of it's not even like a sitting and like don't move until you know what you're doing next because like you're never gonna know until you gather more data. I think it's more of trying things, but okay, like here, let me give you an example. And this is like a financial example that I actually got from Carl Richards, who I love and admire. So fun to have that you had him on you had him on your podcast. Um, but so he actually here, let me read this quote because this actually really summarizes it well. He says, try something just enough to learn the truth without committing to the story in your head. That's often how you find out what you actually want. And I mean, that's a lot of power in a quote, but how that kind of looks in action, say financially, say you really, really wanted this sports car. You've been dreaming about your whole life. You finally say you save up enough money, say you're taking, a loan out for it, whatever. You get this car. Um, and then all of that excitement for it, it like kind of diminishes and it kind of like, I don't know about you, like I have certain experiences where I can look back on this, but um it just feels weird, like, once you actually get what you want. So, an example that Carl Richards has given with this specific sports car analogy is that why don't you go and rent it for a week and, like, really, like, kind of see how it feels to have the car and then decide if you're gonna buy it or not. Because that way, you're giving yourself, like, a week to, like, actually have the car, but then not actually go through the purchase until you
Yeah.
know you confidently want it. Which I guess that's a very, like, monetary example. It can be a lot harder, I think, with life decisions, such as, like, maybe it's, like, your college. You're like, "'Kay, how can you test out how can you test drive a college experience?" Well, that's where you can get creative. Maybe it's like, "Okay, I know so and so," like, maybe my cousin is at Utah Valley University, and I'm a little bit nervous about the dorm life experience because I don't know if you knew this, but our dorms aren't actually on campus. Like, they're close to campus, but they're technically not a part of campus. And so maybe that's, like, something you're considering, like, do I wanna be in an environment where it's way more social with that, okay? So then you would go and stay with your cousin for a week, or, maybe you're gonna go check out a couple clubs or like activities on campus to specifically test out, okay, do I actually see myself doing this for 4 years? Or maybe it's like job shadowing. Maybe whatever it is, I think that we don't do that enough where we don't take the stepping stones to like learn. We just grasp this idea and then we're like, this is it. And you like give yourself all of these reasons why it's it. But maybe if you did something smaller, like a job shadow, tested out the activity on campus, stayed with your cousin, whatever, maybe it isn't actually what you want.
Yeah, yeah, I would almost say it is like dating where, you get to know the
Mhm.
person and you take them on date and you see if it's something you wanna continue, but you don't just marry them right away.
That is an excellent example. Yes. That's
Yeah.
what we should start saying. Start like dating these different career paths and future things. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah, because that's just how you do it is, you get to know the people. And so, yeah, I think if we did that more with the rest of our lives, that would probably be beneficial to us, to people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No,
So
for
how
sure.
did you come to, see what you valued and, what you wanted your life and your time and your money, where you wanted that all to go?
Great question. So I like went to the financial planning academy when I was younger, or I guess like in high school. So I always kind of knew that I wanted to do financial planning. It started off as finance until I found out about financial planning. I've always been into just not numbers, sorry, not numbers actually, not at all. Like the people side of it and helping people like have confidence in their financial situations. And yeah, so I, like, go to college and I had mapped out my life. I went to Dixie for a year. I said, "I'm gonna go there for a year to then have in-state," 'cause I'm from Texas. So I went there to get in-state tuition because of a scholarship, and then I was gonna transfer up to UVU. So that was, like, my plan, and then I was like, "And I'm gonna go on a, year and a half church mission in between. I'm gonna meet my husband." And actually, all of that did happen. So in that order. So I mean, it just worked out that way where everything felt right and my life was going according to plan until I actually was doing so I'm in my 3rd year of financial planning. I should preface my 3rd year of school. And I started realizing like I just had all these ambitious dreams for education, which is totally great. I'm very like proud of myself for dreaming big, but I would just sit in these classrooms and I'm like I hate school. I just I don't know. I have a really hard time, with the, like, transactional mindset that, like, I'm studying and learning all these things and taking a test, and then it's out of my mind after, and it's like, I just feel like there was no, like, experiential application. So I was really struggling with that, and I've always had this dream to be a financial planner, and I still do. I'm actually, like, debating this at the moment, and I'm still moving forward because it feels good. But, I think that my crisis came through being like, "How am I going to sit across the table with clients if I, like, have the hardest time retaining this?" And so my barrier there, it's not stopping me from doing what I like really feel like I want to do, which is the people side of it. But I think it's brought a lot more questions up where instead of also the financial planning profession is pretty big, which I didn't originally know. So now I've kind of shifted more into the role I wanted. So still the same area of like I'm studying this. I did go through a crisis of maybe switching. Like I thought about doing ASL interpreting, which was a really random quest to look into. But originally, I guess at the end of it, I came down to the realization that I want to do more of like the prospecting. Like I want to bring in clients. I want to be super good at like marketing for a firm and just like help bring in, but maybe not be in all the weeds of like the investments and all of that, which I like for some reason as a kid, I just thought I was going to be a master at investments, even though I hate math. I hate sitting in a chair. Like, I don't know. It's kind of funny now that I look back. Um, but that's I guess how I found like my alignment is when I'm sitting across the table from somebody, and this is a lot of times in the Money Success Center or with people that I'm coaching on the side, where I'm like helping them understand growth in their life. So I'm asking them questions, I'm learning about them, and then I'm asking the harder questions like yeah, like why are you doing this or what's the feeling you're hoping to get out of Hawaii that you're not getting now? Things like that
Mhm.
where I don't know, there's just like a different connection that comes through. I think when somebody just needs a coach to like walk them through these different things and then helping them align their money with it because a lot of times we're spending our money in ways that we don't actually want to but it's we're just stuck in these habits like things like that where I'm getting so much fulfillment in those interactions not as much in all the investments and all the expectation I had there that I was going to be some like stock whiz.
Yeah. Yeah. And how would you say you realized that, you didn't actually want those things and, you wanted to bring clients in?
Well, this is kind of funny, but I like failed a math class in college and I'm like it's taken me a while to like actually admit that because I like I don't know, grades have really reflected um like accomplishment for me and I would say I was fairly like a good student until this math class came. but that like having that realization, like I'm like, how did I manage to fail a college course? Like that's actually insane. Like people, high school or college dropouts fail classes. I don't fail classes. And so I think it was kind of the realization that my strengths really were not in like the educational like math side of things. It made me think. I go to a lot of industry conferences and I love talking to people. Like I could talk to people all day every day. I go to any conference I can because I'm around people I can talk to. And I I don't know, just I guess through like realizing like in like lows to the low that semester was actually like fall of this like last year 2025. So pretty recently when I was like, wow, like how like it was kind of a crisis moment I guess of like how am I going to do this? Like I'm this was like a math class. I haven't even taken like all the financial planning courses. So that's just like a big roadblock to think like if I couldn't do this, like how am I going to manage to do like the next thing, you know? Little bit discouraging, but um really helping me understand what I wanted. And actually, I was like hesitant to like bring this up because I've actually put a stop on this because of my upcoming move. But I got on a really big kick in this time period, like this couple months ago of like having this crisis where I realized I wanted to like target summer salespeople and really mostly just do like bringing them in, giving them materials, and then like transferring or like passing them off to another advisor that could like service them a lot more in depth. But I would just be doing like workshops with them and like making connections with them, getting to know like real estate agents, and because that's a huge thing in summer sales is like looking into real estate as well. And I was staying up until like 3 a.m. every single Tuesday. Like I was trying, I had to have balance because I was like, obviously I still have life to deal with. But
Yeah.
I gave myself like 1 day a week where I was like, okay, like I get home from the day and like I have this like 5 hours of I can do whatever I want. And so I would give all my time to like doing research on like summer salespeople, like listening to podcasts, like trying to become like, what is their mindset? And like building out, like I built out some slide decks. Like I was meeting with a bunch of team leads, like kind of just like networking, trying to get into that space. But that like to me, that was my spark of like, okay, the people, like helping the people, bringing in the people is what is getting me going. Like the fact that I like managed, and I don't know if, like I would never recommend staying up late. That's not great, but I think it more showed me like I am so passionate about this that I want to lose 1 night of sleep a week because this is getting me so excited. I don't have time to do this any other time. So this is like, this is really getting me going. And that's like, of course, that's an extreme example. And of course, it came from me like having this life crisis of like failing this class for the first time. Like it definitely like, I think I sprung up really high from that and chose to deal with it that way because that's what I needed. But again, long answer to your question.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a I like how you laid out the process because I think people would like it to be like, "Oh, I just thought about it one day and then it switched." But I like how it's more of a realistic horizon of events because, something that can actually happen for real people, you know?
Yeah. And one thing I actually failed to point out that I really want to like bring up too is just to kind of like take off the layer of perfectionism that can often come with this as well. Is one of my mentors, Lindsay Lewis, brought this up at one point when I was talking to her about things I was going through. And she's like, like stop labeling things as like good and bad. Just like acknowledge that it's all data. Like it's all data that you're gathering. And then you're just kind of like, okay, so I don't want to do that again. Okay, how can I avoid like, you situate this data, but viewing it in like a neutral lens that it's just all a part of this growth. That it's okay. It's okay that I like messed up that one course. In fact, I was able to redo it. So like it's not a big deal. But it's like sometimes we like really just like we can get an analysis paralysis about one thing that happens. And I think that there's a lot of power to like stepping aside and being like, "Okay, this situation is like not the end of the world. It's not fully who I am. Like there's so much more to me than this one thing."
Yeah, I think that would be dangerous to attach yourself to the outcome, but looking at it with as data will just give you more to work on and more to evaluate with.
This was kind of something you said earlier, but for like helping your audience, I would love to like bring up some questions and some ways that you can evaluate things yourself. Just to kind of help with if somebody is feeling like they're in the crisis that we just talked about. So financially, I'm gonna give a kind of different couple different perspectives because I kinda told you my money, time, and values alignment is like where I view things. From a financial perspective, I'm not sure who said this. I'm not the one who came up with this, but somebody said that if you're the you manage $1,000 the same way you'd manage 1,000,000 in the sense that like your habits are the thing that drive things forward. Your habits are not how much you have, which is kind of a cool mindset to have. And so something I would ask myself if I'm looking at this in the financial lens is if I was making $10,000 a month, what would I be spending it on and what would my life look like? And taking time to like map out, draw out this life you want and then and maybe this kind of sounds funky, but then like reflecting on that, like looking at that future life and that future person and learning from them. And I mean that in the sense of even like in your head, like sitting down and being like, okay, so like Sam, like future Sam, like you're living this cool, like maybe there's like a specific thing you can point out in future Sam's life. Then, like, ask him, like, "How did you get there? Like, what do you do? What is your day to day?" Like, I don't know, almost like interviewing your future self, and it's really interesting because a lot of times we know how to get there, we just don't, like, recognize it, but then when you reflect on something such as this example, you'll almost, like, naturally pane out kinda some stepping stones on how to get there, and it'll help you even have that spark for that future. I don't know if that makes sense, and maybe that sounds kinda like woo woo, but it works.
Yeah, no, that makes sense because then you actually have something that you can aim towards and you have concrete things that you can do to get to that.
Mhm. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
also think there's, like, power in you coming up with your own conclusions, and sometimes it just takes yeah, like, looking at and imagining this future, and then seeing I don't know, seeing that it could be a reality.
Yeah. Yeah, so do we want to go through that then for me, or what's the
Yeah,
game
let's
plan?
do it, let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay,
Damn,
so
so I
I'm
guess,
your
like
client.
yes.
Okay.
So yeah. So, Sam, if we were looking at you, like, let's just say you're one of my clients in the Money Success Center that I'm working with. I'd love to ask you that same question. If you were making $10,000 a month right now, what would you be spending it on?
Okay, I would probably get a vehicle for myself so I don't have to use my parents' cars anymore. I would probably yeah, it's still a lot of money. 10% of it would go to to my church. So now I only have 9,000 I need to work with.
And you don't have to be specific on the numbers.
Okay.
I'm pretty much asking you to just like dream here. Yeah.
Okay, just like my wildest dreams for $10,000.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay, I think a car would be nice. It would be more more convenient. And then I don't know, there's not a lot I need at my age. So I think I would utilize that money to further my education. And so maybe
Mm,
that looks like books or like online courses. And so I can just really go deep into what I'm interested in. Oh, and then there's the podcast and what I do with content. And so I could use that to, scale and grow and build a team. But I think mostly what I would use the money for would be to increase convenience, having my own vehicle and then increasing how much I'm able to learn and
mm,
increasing my reach because I think I would have a lot more access if I have more money. And so that would translate then to higher higher learning for me because I would be able to reach more and have access to more and then higher impact, with the things I'm doing through content.
I love that. I love that you pointed out a couple of things that are, and I know you haven't done the like values exercise, but I feel like some of your core values are coming out here. Where you're talking a lot about like investing in yourself, education, this podcast. I love that you pointed out like hiring out people, getting more hands on deck to like get some reach and and really grow there. I love that you pointed out the vehicle so that you don't have like convenience-wise, so you don't have to borrow your parents. I feel like that would be huge. That'd be huge. Tell me more about let's like lean into this podcast. If you were to grow well, not even about like the growth, but what is the podcast doing for you right now?
Yeah, so right now, what it's doing for me, I started it so I could um honestly just talk to more people, learn how to grow, and then potentially, learn from people's mistakes, learn from their success, and see what I want to model in my life. And so that's been the primary purpose of it is, kind of for my own learning and then hopefully for the benefit of other people. And then right now, I feel like I really value learning and I value I think that there are ways people can live their lives that would be better than others. And if that can be taught to them in a clear way and, a way that is compelling to them, then I would love to be able to do that, for more young men my age because people, they will go down a path and then, they'll realize that they aren't happy with where they are. And so I think potentially if this podcast and, anything I'm doing online would help more people in my generation to choose things that are going to help them build a life that they care about, that would create a lot of meaning in my life because I would know the impact that I would have had on other people.
I love that. That is so like purpose filled. And it's so fun to see you like talk about the passion in and seeing this around and wanting to help that mission of helping people have that purpose and spark. So let's say we're like 5 years out, maybe 10 years, whatever the time frame. What's like your next couple steps with the podcast, getting more reach, helping people?
Next couples.
That's like, do you wanna end up, like, doing public speaking with this? Like, say there was, like, engagements where people are coming to you to watch you talk about this.
Yeah.
And also, like, if you haven't thought about this, don't feel, like, pressure.
No, yeah. Remember I had just bought this. I was like 14 or 15 and I bought this $700 course from a marketer. And
Wow,
there was this guy
commitment.
talking on stage. It was he's one of the guys on Shark Tank and he has is it I can't remember his name. But I wish I could remember the name. But he was talking on stage and it was super motivating for me and it inspired me to, I want to live a life where I actually build something and it's meaningful. And I thought that would be really cool to, do something like that, something events or something like that because there is something about in person, talking with people. And so, some sort of education. And so I think, yeah, let's say public speaking. I think that would be cool.
Okay. So, tell me about, like, what this would look like. Like, let's say I was showing up to an event next week next Saturday. Let's say you had an event. What are some of the things like, what would you be doing? Like, and maybe it's just, talking, interviewing something, kinda same thing you're doing here, but on a platform, whatever. Walk me through just, like, what would it would look like in action.
Yeah. Hmm. Well, it would be a lot of a lot of people come together, probably mostly young men, but you can come too. And
Thank you, thank you.
yeah, let's say that there's an event put on. There would be various speakers that I had personally vetted or, searched out that I think that they could be helpful to the people who are going to be here. And then, I would probably prepare a couple messages and, we would get the young men excited to, pursue life and to build a life of meaning and purpose. And so it'd be quite the event.
I love that. I bet it would be quite the event. So, now I wanna kinda pause here. And sometimes I'll even go deeper than this and, like, ask more about the event or podcasting in general. Um, Also, this is going through the outlet of, like, the time with those 3 things just because I didn't feel like money was the focus for you at the moment.
No.
Um,
Yeah.
but then I love to, like, pause here and then dive more into how we can translate that to where you're at today. So I know and it's a little bit harder where there's a couple of things, like a mission that's going to definitely be its own course before you come back and focus on something like this, so that's a little bit of a unique situation, but, um, how can you start becoming that person right now?
Yeah.
Or doing those
So,
things, getting to that point?
yeah, that's a good question. What am I how can I start? And then also probably what am I doing as well? Because I do have the podcast, but there's not hmm, how can I start? Yeah, what actions if that was my future, what actions did I do now that led to that? Probably let me think for a second.
Yeah, no worries. That's a big question.
Yeah. Yeah, because tying it to specific behaviors. I think probably just more focus on, the content itself and, how can we optimize this and what's the ideal audience responding well to? What are they connecting with? And, analyzing feedback to see what's actually getting us closer to this end goal of helping young men to want to pursue a life that they will enjoy living. And so I think just more iteration and then moving forward with that new data that we will get.
Okay. No, that's amazing. So, do you mean like social media reach, or is there a different outlet you're referring to?
Um, probably just like streams of the episodes and then, seeing how people are responding to it on what's the engagement like? What are the comments
Mm,
like? And you see what the audience likes. And yeah, so I guess social media. I hear social media and I think like Instagram and YouTube, but no, I think social media as in yeah, YouTube, Spotify podcasts,
mhm,
just wherever people are consuming the long form content, seeing what's working and then continuing
mhm.
to do that.
Okay. No, I love that. I think that's so great, and I love that you said like those little snippets too. I think that's an engaging way. So then, what are some things that you think you could start doing this next couple weeks or tomorrow to start doing that? Like,
Yeah.
what are the simple steps?
Yeah, what are the simple steps? Yeah, because it's conceptually or, in concept, I can talk about anything I'm gonna do, but without actual actions. Okay, so simple steps, probably going through everything I've put out so far and see what's performed the best, and then looking at that and, thinking about and writing reasons of, maybe why it performed better than other episodes, and then moving forward into next ones, into future recordings and implementing those things. And so the concrete action would be analyzing everything I've put out so far and seeing what's gotten the most reach based
Okay.
on the goal.
That's awesome. Well, I'm gonna schedule send you a text and ask how
Okay.
that's going next week.
Okay.
I'll give you a
Let's do
week.
it.
You could tell me, and even if it's like, I thought about it. I
No,
thought
I'll do
about
it.
doing
If I say I do it, I will.
okay, perfect. Well, I'm just sending that. Okay. Well, we'll kind of stop there. That's just like a little snippet of kind of what this exercise can look like with somebody or alone. And again, like I said, this was fully on the time angle because that podcast, what you're pursuing there is time focused, as it's not really in the other category. Well, I guess it reflects your values, but it's not in the money category. Um,
Yeah.
but like, I know we didn't go too deep with that, Sam, but did you have any thoughts from it that, I don't know, made you think differently or that you liked? Yeah, like, is there anything that came to mind that you liked, disliked? I'd love to hear any
Yeah.
thoughts.
I think it brought me more. clarity on that the reason that I want to do these things is that I really do want to help more young men to, to just build great lives. And for me, this seems to be the most doable way to to do that. But I think that's what is important to me is, there's principles you can build on, and the more people, everyone will listen well to different persons. So there'll be people who they will, hear my voice or the voice of the people that I have on here, and that will inspire them to change. Or people that, you hear Carl Richards, and that's who inspires you. And so I think there will be a group of people who will be inspired by the work that I do, and so I want to reach them.
Yeah. And just on a personal level, I'm curious too if while you're, you know, building these podcasts, doing these things to, really help these young men around you, do you do you feel like that is part of your spark?
But yeah, yeah.
Like kind of that same feeling I was talking about with the summer sales, how I don't know, I'd be like doing crazy things because I was so excited about it. Do you feel like that's relatable with like how you view
Yeah,
this?
yeah, I would say it is yeah, I want to learn as much as I can so that I can improve my own life, but then I also want to share that as well.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I
and
think
that's
that
what
that's kind of
excites me.
yeah. And I think that's really like I feel like we've gotten like an aligned mission here on like helping other people find that same momentum, especially long term, is like the beauty of this decade of decisions is learning how to know what's getting you most excited and bringing you more most purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, something I would say it's worth suffering for, almost. Alex Hormozy has talked about that before, is,
Yes.
if there's gonna be pain in whatever I'm gonna do for a career, then I might as well be helping people as I do that.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. What have we not talked about that we need to talk about today?
I feel like we covered, a lot of what I wanted to talk about. I do just have some last tips, I think, for like, I have them split up in, like, time tips and, like, money alignment tips because we didn't talk a lot about, um, those moments because that's kind of, like, an interesting thing to wrestle with is, like, I guess you're not always gonna be living in full alignment because of, like we were saying, a lot of it's, like, data you're gathering. You get things wrong sometimes, and that's okay, that's part of life. But recognizing what those moments are when things are aligned, I say is where your spark comes the like shines the brightest. Like when you're realizing that you're doing something that's a greater than what you realize that you were capable of is oftentimes what happens for me. But just some like time tips because sometimes we also everyone's at different places. Sometimes we have to each like work through fog to get to like the next step. So these time tips are focused on that fog. Okay. Like if you're stuck and you're like, wow, I don't even know like I don't like how I'm spending my time is like so misaligned, but like I don't even know where to start. Just some things I would say that are just handy is so let's just say you have like a high screen time and you're not proud of it there is something you can set up on your I guess this is specifically iPhone users, so sorry to anybody who's not an iPhone user. But you can use shortcuts on your phone and set up a shortcut to, like, text yourself on iMessage, whenever you, like, click on something. So let's say you set up a shortcut for, like, Instagram, maybe Amazon, I don't know if you, like, find yourself shopping a lot, or maybe it's just your photo app, whatever. You set up this shortcut to, like, tell yourself something. So I like to put, like, a motivational, like, quote or, like, n instead of being like, "Stop it." But, like, some people, they like to put, like, comical things like, "Girl, what you doing?" Like, "You know you can't afford that," or, like, whatever. Anyway, you put up, like, a shortcut, so every time you click on the app and it gets annoying, but it will, like, send that text to yourself. So it's really funny and an annoying way to, like, give yourself a quick, like, step back of, like or maybe it's even saying, like, "Hey, turn off your phone for 30 seconds and then decide if you actually wanna go on Amazon for an hour," you know? whatever. You can be creative, but I think it's a really handy thing for people who struggle with like phone usage and screen time and feel really like gross about it. They want to change. It's kind of a fun way to do that. Um, I guess I'll share like a quick tip about money alignment. And I kind of alluded to this earlier in the example I was sharing about my client, but um, ask yourself the question when you crave, I'm just going to put this in an example because it's like, it might be easier that way, but like replace it with what's applicable to you. So when you crave a trip to Hawaii, or when you crave like, I don't know, this expensive sports car, ask yourself, what am I hoping to get out of this having the sports car, this Hawaii trip that I'm not getting out of my life now? And I think that's a really powerful reflective question that can help with this alignment.
Yeah. Yeah, I think just asking yourself why is, even with the screen time is like, what are you doing? You don't have time for this. But yeah, I think just moving out of, mindlessness and passivity, and these are all things that will help that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can send the things I'm referring to in, like, the description and, like, actually throw in the values exercise so that people can do it on their own. But
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, I think
always
that would be helpful.
Yeah, I'm always happy to, like, sit down and talk with people about, like, what they're feeling and, like, just help walk them through something if there's a situation. So, also, like, I can put down my social media and email if people are wanting a specific help on these like, walking through these things.
Okay, yeah, awesome. Let's link those in the description. And then yeah, I think that's really cool. Is there anything else you want to share with the audience? Any last piece of advice? Any favorite quote or something?
Oh, I no, I don't have, like, a favorite quote coming to mind,
Okay.
but no, I'm just really grateful, I think, for what life gives each of us, and even if there is rocky times and we feel out of alignment, I think the best part is that when you reach a low, like, once you reach rock bottom, there's only one way one place to go, which is it's up. So I think having grace for yourself and knowing that, like, reminding yourself that, yes, this is a very stressful time of life, it's also so inspiring and so cool to be able to have this phase of life and get to have trial and error and find out what lights you up and what's truly giving you your spark for life. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for having me on the podcast, Sam. I really enjoyed this discussion and thanks for walking through the little exercise.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for coming on. I think that the insights and the exercises will be helpful to anyone who goes through them. And, just thinking about why they want to do what they want to do.